Every company that dominates market knows exactly where the danger comes from. From better and cheaper competitors, from changing regulations, from supply chain disruptions. And they're watching obsessively for these threats. But the real danger rarely looks like a threat. At first it looks like a toy. That thing, which is of much worse quality than what you're doing. Inferior, easy to ignore, until suddenly it isn't. Let me show you how this happens. You know, Clayton Christensen, who was a professor at Harvard Business School, described two types of innovation, sustaining and disruptive. And most companies focus on the first one, on sustaining innovation. Think of an archer. Sustaining innovation is making a better bow, with more tension, with more precision. This is a safe and logical bet, playing by the rules. Disruptive innovation is not playing by the rules, it flips the table. For instance, inventing the gun. At first, early guns were loud, inaccurate, slow to reload, so to an elite archer who trained for years, the gun was basically a toy, not a threat at all. But the gun changed the rules. You could give it to an ordinary person, and pretty quickly they were good enough at shooting, without years of training. Disruption starts at the bottom, with people who were previously completely ignored, and for them, it's good enough. And then it moves upwards until it takes the entire market. Let's look at one particular example, how it happens. In 1888, Kodak disrupted the photography market. They took something only professionals could do and made it available to everyone. And then, for almost 100 years, they dominated the entire industry. Cameras, film, photo processing. Kodak made money from every single photo somebody took. You press the button, we do the rest. And like every great company, Kodak listened to their best customers. Professional photographers who demanded better film with more detail, with richer colors. Kodak invested billions. They hired best engineers to deliver better photo quality, year after year after year. They did everything by the book. But then, 1975, one of their engineers walks into a meeting room presenting a prototype of a digital camera. It was bulky, it was slow, the photos were of terrible quality. Not a threat. And honestly, the film business was worth billions, and digital camera had no film. Why would they invest in the technology that made no money? So they made a logical decision. Focus on what's working. Focus on film. Kodak invented the future, and they completely ignored that. And here's the misconception. They asked customers what they wanted, and the answer was better film. They should have asked what jobs customers try to solve with their film. People were not buying film to get high-quality photos. The real job was to capture memories, to not forget important moments, to share experiences with people they love. And digital did the same job, just in a different way. Yes, worst quality at first. However, instant results. You don't need the lab, you don't need to wait. Kodak kept improving the film, but the job was starting to change. By the late 90s, regular people started buying cheap digital cameras, and finally, that broke Kodak the neck. They were buying these cameras because they were good enough to capture birthday parties. And you could email your photo to your grandma. How cool is that? And then 2004, Facebook launched. And that massively accelerated the shift to digital. Because, in fact, the job now changed completely. Most people didn't need cameras to create beautiful prints anymore. I mean, you can still do this even today, but try to remember, when was the last time you printed the photo? Instead of printing them, you are now sharing them to your friends, to your family, on Facebook, on Instagram, to get likes, to get comments. And that's only possible with digital. No matter how good your film is, you cannot upload it to Facebook. So Kodak kept improving the job nobody needed done anymore. And you know what's funny? In 1994, Apple released one of the first consumer digital cameras, QuickTake 100. And guess who built it? Kodak. They knew how to make digital cameras, and they were even manufacturing them for competitors. But they held back themselves because their best customers were professional photographers who didn't want digital. They wanted film. Basically, Kodak was listening to the wrong people. Photographers were not the future. Regular people with cheap cameras were. But nobody at Kodak ever talked to them. By the time they realized and released their own digital cameras in early 2000s, that was way too late. Canon, Nikon, Sony had already taken the market. And so in 2012, Kodak finally filed a bankruptcy. But the story doesn't end there. In 2007, iPhone arrived. Compared to the Canon and Nikon cameras of that time, the original iPhone camera was really a joke. Tiny sensor, no zoom, no flash, not a threat at all. Real photographers need real cameras, not a phone, they said. And maybe for real photographers, it was true, but everybody else got a good enough camera in their pocket, connected to the internet. And finally, smartphones disrupted the mass market of cameras again. Different victims, but exactly the same pattern. Disruption doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly, as a toy, as a joke, as something everybody ignores. And it happens over and over and over again. This is a normal drumbeat of life. Disruption is brutal for companies, but amazing for people. Photography became cheap and accessible. Kodak lost, but we all won. Right now, the rise of AI is the most massive disruption by far, but who knows what else is lurking around the corner. Maybe it's something dusty and rusty in someone's garage that nobody's paying attention to. So, if you're running a company or working at one, here's a watch out for you. Don't ask your customers what they want. Instead, ask them what job they're trying to solve with your product. Because the future doesn't come from making better film. It comes from understanding why people need film in the first place. And if you want to learn more about this topic, I highly recommend books from Clayton Christensen. The Innovator's Dilemma is on the disruptive technology, and Competing Against Luck is about the job to be done. Enjoy!